بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Alhamdulillah, first and foremost, I'd like to thank our brothers for arranging today's seminar, and without doubt they're in need of thanking, because those who can arrange seminars for such a program and from the authentic sources are very few indeed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward them immensely, according to the hadith of Rasulullah, where he said, "Man la yashkuru an-nas la yashkuru Allah." Whoever is not thankful to the people is not thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My area today that I'm asked to cover is regarding the Umrah, the guide to Umrah. And before I get to that, I thought just to hit on a few points, and that is, when we move forward, just to remind ourselves, I'm not sure we've covered this already, but just a very, very quick reminder as to the types of Hajj. Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained for the human being, for the Muslim, for the one who has the means to do so in terms of wealth and health. If we were to look at the types of Hajj that a person can perform, they come under three categories. The first category is Hajj Tamattu'. Now Tamattu' is where a person will enter into Ihram for Umrah, and this can be prior to the actual days of Hajj. So he may come 3, 4, 5 weeks early and perform an Umrah, and then, as the name suggests, Tamattu' means to have enjoyment, which means that you come out of Ihram, and in doing so all the restrictions of Ihram are lifted from that person. And then when the days of Hajj start, that person re-enters into Ihram, and all of the conditions of Ihram are binding on that person. So this is Hajj Tamattu'. Hajj Ifrad. Ifrad here means where a person makes the Ihram for only doing Hajj. So there's no break in between. So here a person makes Ihram, they go straight into the actions of Hajj, doing the Tawaf, the Sa'i, the days at Arafah and Mina, Arafah, until its completion. And then we have the third category is Hajj Qiran, which means where a person combines both the Umrah and the Hajj together. So they enter for the Umrah first of all, and then they continue with the rites of Hajj, starting with the Tawaf of Hajj. If we were to look at the conditions for the Hajj to be valid, first and foremost, that it is required that the person be a believer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept any actions done by a disbeliever. Their actions will be wasted. And secondly, that they have to be sane. Sane meaning of sound mental state. So if that person meets those two conditions, their Hajj, inshallah, will be acceptable. Now there's a difference we'll cover in a minute. Also, an extra condition is that for women. However, I hear that this year things have changed a bit, where the rules have been, in inverted commas, relaxed. However, most of the scholars, they say that the woman should have a mahram, a non-marriable relative. And here this is based on the saying of Ibn Abbass, on the hadith where he heard the Prophet ﷺ, in the meaning of the hadith, to say, no man should be alone with a woman unless her mahram is present, and no woman should travel unless she has a mahram with her. And here a man stood up and said, O Messenger of Allah, my wife has gone out for Hajj, and I have enlisted for such and such campaign. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go and perform Hajj with your wife. There are a group of scholars who see this hadith as that the woman went, which means it's a type of approval or that she's allowed. However, the scholars said no, that because of being alone, that it is a requirement of the Hajj for a woman that she go with mahram. Allahu a'lam. If we look, also there's two other issues here, sorry. In terms of children, children sometimes accompany their parents on Hajj. And the question arises that is the Hajj of a child valid? So here this can actually be split up into two areas. One, is it valid in terms of the action? Is it allowed? And secondly, is it valid as a Hajj, which is counted as the obligatory Hajj for an individual? Here, based on the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who said in the meaning, any child who performs Hajj and then reaches puberty must perform another Hajj. And any slave who performs Hajj and is then freed has to perform another Hajj. So here the scholars explain it. Of course, the issue of slaves, maybe that's not pertinent to us today, but as regards to a child, yes, a child may perform Hajj. Nothing wrong with that. However, it is not considered to be a Hajj which is from the obligatory duties of the adult Muslim, from the 5 pillars. When the child reaches the age of maturity, they're required to make a Hajj, which would be then their obligatory Hajj, one of the 5 pillars, which they have completed, inshallah ta'ala. When we go for Hajj or Umrah, we need to understand that there are conditions laid out as to every step of the way. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not leave this deen except there is explanation for every aspect of the deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Whatsoever the Messenger of Allah gives you, take from it. And whatever He forbids you, abstain from it. So here, the Prophet ﷺ explained to us as regards to the actual performing of Hajj and Umrah. And we find that through his actions. And one of the actions is the donning of the ihram, the wearing of ihram to become muhrim, in a state of ihram. But before we do this, we need to know from where. From where is the ihram to be put on? And here, there is what is called a miqat. A miqat is a boundary, basically. The plural of which is mawaqit. This is the place where the ihram is to be worn. Now there are different miqat, mawaqit, depending on which area you're coming to make your Hajj and Umrah. So for example, those people coming from Medina, which if I remember my geography, is like northwest, would you say northwestish? No. Northish, northwest, okay, north. So people coming from Medina come from a place called Dhul Hulayfa. People coming from Syria, okay, which is north and more to the west, more northwest. Their miqat is Al-Juhfa. People who are coming from the area of Najd, which is coming from the area of Riyadh, Qasim, Buraida, that part, and also sometimes people coming from the Sharqiyya and the eastern province, they may pass by the same route via the Medina route. So their place is Qarn al-Manazil. And those who are coming from the Yemen, the south region, Asir and those areas, theirs is called Ya Lamlam. However, to make life easy for yourselves, normally every plane that you come on, which is coming into Jeddah, alhamdulillah, they will all announce that you're approaching the miqat. So those who want to put on ihram should do so now. And you can imagine at that time there's going to be a huge rush, everybody running to the toilets, showering in a tiny cubicle and so forth, and it's not practical. So the best thing, most people, nothing wrong with that, they put the ihram on at the airport or whilst you're on the plane. So give themselves plenty of time. You're not in ihram, but you've just put the clothes on. So the ihram is to be worn prior, before actually reaching the miqat area. Okay, so these are the mawaqit the different miqats for the different areas that people are coming from. Now, we were talking about ihram. Now, ihram itself is not simply putting on this cloth, white cloth for the men, izar and rida, a waist sheet and an upper cloth. However, it's more than just wearing this. Here, it's also to be in the state with the intention of making the Hajj or Umrah. At the same time, we become in a state of things being forbidden for us, which we'll come on to into a minute, inshallah ta'ala. When a person wants to get ready to put on the ihram, so we mentioned the ihram is two things for the man: a lower sheet, izar, and the rida, which is the upper waist cloth. And it should be of white cloth. It could be toweling, it could be cotton, but just plain white cloth. For women there is no set ihram. She can wear normal clothes. However, with the ihram for women, the scholars explained that for those women who wear niqab, here the question is, the Prophet ﷺ explained that a woman should not be having niqab or gloves, quffaz or niqab. So what to do in that situation? There are some sisters or some people, they take the opinion that you cannot wear the niqab, so the face is to be uncovered. In fact, the scholars such as Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala explain this, and Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, that the hadith mentions this, but for the woman, what she should do is according to the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha and others, where when they were with the Prophet ﷺ, and if riders rode by, they would lower the khimar, the head covering, over their face, and then raise it up again when they went by. However, the scholars, they explain that that is not practical today, because wherever you will go now, you'll have people who are ghayr mahram, and if she's covering her face, to up, down, all that, it's not practical. So the scholars, they said she can keep the khimar, the head scarf, lowered over her face, or leave it so she can see where she's walking. طيب. When the men are in ihram, we should follow as the Prophet ﷺ did. And in the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, she would perfume him. He would actually take a ghusl, a bath, and then he would be perfumed. So this is something which is to be done. This is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We should follow him in that. In a state of ihram for the men, according to the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, that the muhrim, the one in a state of ihram, should not wear a long shirt, which is qamis, a turban, imamah, a hooded robe, which is burnus, trousers, a scented garment scented by turmeric or saffron, or leather socks, except for one who does not find sandals. He will wear leather socks and cut them so they are below his ankles. Here also the scholars explain that if a person does not have ihram, let's say somebody couldn't find the ihram, or somebody passed the last shop before the miqat, and they reach the miqat and they have no ihram to wear. The scholars, they said it's allowed for the person to wear whatever he has as an ihram. Okay, in general, we know that the Prophet ﷺ explained that there has to be an intention, and actions are by intentions, and the niyyah fil qalb, that the niyyah is in the heart. For example, when you want to stand and pray, it is not from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to say, I'm going to pray 4 rak'ah for dhahr, 2 rak'ah for fajr, and so forth. This is not from the sunnah. We do not utter the intention aloud, except for 2 circumstances. Right, here's what I'm going to ask you guys. What are those 2 circumstances? Can't use this one. Just general knowledge, anybody? Sorry? Brother says, Masjid Nabawi, when you go there, not really. But here, there are two actions of worship. One is here, the talbiyah is where we say, basically it's an intention. So this is one of the reasons. Okay, I was going to say I'll give you a prize, but I don't have a prize on me. If somebody has a prize, we'll give them a prize. Let me just see if I have anything in my pocket. No sweets or chocolates. I've got a bottle of perfume. That's what's left of it. If anyone can give me the other situation where the intention is made aloud. Okay, I'll get back to that one. Have a think about it. Anyway, when we put the ihram on, and we have to make the intention that we're entering into the ihram. As we said, this is said aloud, and there are different situations where we say the talbiyah according to what we're doing. So for example, if somebody is making the Hajj, as we said, will be according to the different type of Hajj. The initial talbiyah. The talbiyah itself, we say labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik innal hamda wan ni'ma lak wal mulk la sharika lak. That here I am, O Allah, here I am, you have no partner, here I am. Verily all praise and blessings are yours, and all sovereignty, you have no power. There are also different variations to this. Also labbaik ilah al-haq, or according to Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, he used to add to the talbiyah the following words. You say labbaik wa sa'dayka wal khair biyadayk wal raghba ilayka wal amal, which is here I am, blessed by you, and all good is in your hands, and desire and action are directed towards you. The issue here of adding something to this talbiyah as a safeguard measure. And here, this happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where a person can add that if I am prevented from doing the actions of the Hajj, then my exiting ihram is where I am prevented. And this is what happened in a situation once where the Prophet ﷺ commanded one of his companions, Dubah bin Az-Zubair, where she wanted to enter ihram, but she was ill. So he asked her to put that condition in there. And then he said to her, your condition is valid with your Lord. So here, if a person puts that condition in there, and something prevents you from completing the actions of Hajj, from completing your pilgrimage, then the person exits the ihram without having to offer any expiation for it. But if a person feels that there's nothing that may be an obstacle for that person from continuing and fulfilling all the actions of Hajj, then no need to put that condition in there. In terms of the nature of the talbiyah would require a person to raise the voice when they're saying it. And the woman is only required to raise her voice only so the one next to her can hear it. Because some of the scholars, they consider the voice of the woman as a awrah, as something to be concealed. So she should not make the talbiyah aloud only so the one next to her can hear it. So she'll be with the women, or she's with her husband, but it shouldn't be raised like the voice, like the man raises his voice. In terms of how often, we should try to say the talbiyah as often as possible. Especially when your situation changes, you change transport for example, or you're going from one place to another, going uphill or going downhill, ascending or descending. Whether it's a day or night, we should continue with the talbiyah and ask Allah for His rida, His pleasure. We should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua as well, to ask for His khair, for His jannah, and seeking refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against the punishment of the hellfire. We say the talbiyah during Umrah, from the time that you put on the ihram, the time we really enter from the miqat, because you're now muhrim. As soon as you go across the boundary, you are muhrim, you're in a state of ihram. Where should you say the talbiyah? As we mentioned, going uphill, downhill, ascending or descending. When you hear someone else saying it, also to say, not in unison, because that is not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If you saw somebody doing something which is not right, this also talbiyah should be mentioned. Or when you see a people approaching, okay, maybe they're in a car coming by, maybe it's a group coming towards you, maybe they're not saying it. So here, it will also be a reminder for them as well. After the obligatory prayers, and if a person is going to be fasting, or at the time of just before Fajr, there as well, and during the ends of the day, which is the Maghrib and Isha time, or in the early morning after Fajr, all these times are good times for a person to make the talbiyah. There's no restriction on that. In terms of when a person is in a state of ihram, what are the things which are forbidden for them to do? Well, there are 9 things. Number 1, once a person has become a muhrim, has become in a state of ihram, that you're not allowed to cut their hair or shave the hair of their head. Neither are you allowed to cut or trim the fingernails. Once a person's in ihram, the men that is, they are not allowed to apply any perfume on themselves. Sexual intercourse or whatever leads to it is not allowed for the married couples. Conducting a marriage contract, whether it's for yourself or on behalf of others, is not allowed. Wearing gloves, this is for men and women because maybe it's cold. Wearing gloves is not allowed as in a state of ihram. Anything which is makhit, sewn clothing, is not allowed for men to wear. Neither is anything which is a head covering, such as a taghiyya, a cap, topi, or an imam, a turban, anything like that. No head coverings, ghutra, shimagh, these things are not allowed to be worn on the head. And for the women, she's not allowed to wear the niqab. So these are 9 things which are forbidden for the muhrim to do. So alhamdulillah, we now land in Jeddah. Okay, there's a hustle and bustle, something which I didn't put on here, and it's actually outside of the actions of ibadah, of course. But one thing, what I would suggest to do is get down to the STC shop or the Mobile or Jawal, whichever, Zain, and get yourself a mobile phone. Believe me, it'll help out a lot. You know, your roaming is going to top up. But I would suggest, you've got your passport, it's very easy, it's quite painless these days, I think. And get yourself a SIM card at the airport before you actually go to Mecca. Okay, that's a little kind of side note. Alright, from what we know, between Jeddah and Mecca, normally you were taken by your transportation. Okay, so when you go from Jeddah to Mecca, at this time, okay, I've got to know here, we're going from Medina, we're going to Medina from Jeddah. Okay, if you're going to Medina from Jeddah, that means you're going outside, yeah. Ah, okay. So here then, in that case, if a person is going to Medina first, then no need to be in ihram there. Your ihram will be put on when you're going from Medina. So here, as you come from Dhul Hulayfa, that's the miqat for the people coming from Medina. But just in case anybody went from Jeddah. But either way, the ihram, you need to be in ihram before you reach the miqat. Okay. So now you come towards, you've gone through the miqat and you're heading towards Mecca. Continuously, we should be engaged in talbiyah, dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until we reach the haram and we see the Kaaba. Incidentally, a person may want to make ghusl before they reach the miqat boundary. And normally, for example, where we used to come from Qarn al-Manazil, there are places there in that area where there are specific masajid set aside where the pilgrims can come and make the ghusl and do ihram. So most likely you will find something similar. Is that right? Now, there's something similar where you can actually go to that masjid, you can have a complete ghusl, there's like shower cubicle, okay, and then you can stay in the clothes of ihram from that time. Now we're entering Mecca. When we enter Masjid al-Haram, it is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to enter with the right first. As regards to which door, some of the scholars are of the opinion that to enter through Bab al-Umrah. Others say Bab al-Umrah. There's different opinions. However, it's not an obligatory action. Whichever masjid door you go through, you enter upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And when he would enter, he would say, Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, Allahumma aghfir li dhunubi wa aftah li abwab rahmatik, a'udhu billahi al-azim wa biwajhi al-kareem bi sultani al-qadim min ash-shaytan al-rajim. In the name of Allah, and blessings and peace be upon the Messenger of Allah. O Allah, forgive me my sins and open to me the gates of your mercy. I seek refuge with Allah the Almighty and in His noble countenance and His eternal power from the accursed shaitan. Okay, now we've entered the masjid. Again, there's a difference in opinion. Some scholars, they allow 2 rak'at tahiyatul masjid to be done. However, if a person goes straight to the Kaaba because he's actually in the actual process of doing the Umrah, if he goes straight to the Kaaba, he sees and he stops the Talbiyah now. When the person sees the Kaaba, they stop from the Talbiyah. The Kaaba itself has some distinctive features. I know, mashallah, we've all seen it on TV, on video, on Sky, whatever. But we shouldn't remind ourselves as to where we are going to start from. There used to be a line which comes from the corner of the Kaaba, which has the black stone set in. It's a black, the Hajj Aswad, the black stone set in a silver casing, and there used to be on the floor a black line that used to come all the way back through the white tiled area into the basically the footsteps of the masjid going upwards. They've removed that now. Reasons was because people just stand on there for time, making dua and things like that on that point, which is not the sunnah to do that. Okay, so there is no black line. You're going to have to imagine an invisible line which is going to the corner of the Kaaba where the Hajj Aswad, the black stone, is. When you're going to start the tawaf, you uncover the shoulder, for the men that is. You uncover the right shoulder, throw it over your left and tuck it under your left armpit. Ittiba'. So when they make ittiba', the man then walks towards the Kaaba so that the shoulder, your left shoulder, is on the right of the Kaaba. So you're doing anti-clockwise circuits. Okay? So we're going to walk with the Kaaba on our left hand side. So we moved from the corner before the Hajj Aswad, the black stone, is called the Rukn Yamani, the Yemeni corner. So we're walking from there to the black stone. So this is going to be our starting point. So that person will start to make tawaf around the black stone. Okay? From the black stone around in a circle direction. So now, this is going to be the first circuit of the tawaf. What should a person read? Are there any specific dua? The answer is no specific dua. However, the best is the dhikr of Allah, which is the recitation of the Quran. So you can hold the Mus'haf in your hand if you want to. You can recite from memory. You can say du'as as well, no problem. You can have a book of du'as. You have memorized some du'a. You can say any of the du'as which are good, asking for yourself, for your family members, for your children, for your neighbors, for your colleagues, even for the non-Muslims that you know to be guided. Make dua. This is a time to make dua as well. So you make the tawaf around doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering Allah, Quran or dua, until you reach now what is the Yemeni corner. Now the Yemeni corner will be uncovered, but there's nothing like a marker or something like that. But normally they do uncover it. So when you reach, so here if we look at a cube, the cube structure, you've got the first corner, which is the black stone, Hajj Aswad. Then you've got a second corner, a third corner, and a fourth corner. So if you take 0 point as the black stone, the first corner, can you get that mouse on here? This is your first corner. So here, this is a 0 point here. First corner here. The second corner is that back one there. That's the third corner. So the third corner, if we're counting after the Hajj Aswad, is the Yemeni corner. When we reach the Yemeni corner, then we recite the following verse of the Quran. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Which means, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us good in this world, grant us good in this life and good in the hereafter, and save us from the punishment of the hellfire. Oh Allah, I beg of you forgiveness and health in this life and in the hereafter. So this is the specific dhikr or specific remembrance to say at that point, and to repeat this aloud until you reach back to the what? Black stone, Hajj Aswad. So we've done one circuit of the Kaaba. So we'll continue in this way. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Every time we come to the Yemeni corner, we say this verse of the Quran, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا, until the end. Always keeping sure the Kaaba is towards our left shoulder. Now, as regards to the black stone, kissing of the black stone is something which was a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. However, you may see some people shoving and pushing to get to the black stone to kiss it. This is not, in fact, scholars say this is forbidden to do. Why? That is a sunnah. In order for a person to achieve a sunnah, you would harm somebody. And here the obligatory action is to make sure that people are safe from your harm. And sometimes you see people pushing and shoving and, to the extent where people get frustrated and lash out. I've seen it myself. People lashing out at people because they just get fed up. They want so much to kiss the black stone. But as Umar radiallahu anh said, what is a black stone? It can neither harm nor benefit you. The only reason why we do it is because the Prophet ﷺ did it. Otherwise we wouldn't do it. It has no special magical power. So here, if it's able for us to do so in a civilized manner, where we don't encroach on the rights of the fellow Hujjaj or the fellow people doing Umrah, otherwise, khalas. Say, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. That's it. That's all we have to do to it. Say Bismillah. When you reach that point, the line, say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and continue. Some people, you'll see them standing making dua. This is not from the Sunnah. Yeah? Because sometimes people, they assume an action is correct, but if you were to investigate it, it doesn't come from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So always we go upon what we are sure about. So once we've done the completion of the tawaf. Now one thing which I forgot to mention, is that for men, when they do the first 3 circuits of the Kaaba, these should be done with brisk short steps, fast. Okay? Chest up high. This is called Ramal. And the reason for this was when the Prophet ﷺ came with his companions, he commanded them to do this, because they did not want the kuffar at that time to see them as being weak Muslims, to show them we are strong, fit, healthy. And that was the reason it was done. But we still continue to do that because this is from the rights of the Hajj and Umrah. So we continue with his Sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once a person now has completed the 7 circuits for the tawaf, then a person will go to Maqam Ibrahim. Maqam Ibrahim is the actual, when you say Maqam Ibrahim, the station of the place of Ibrahim, there you'll find like a glass kind of display with a gold dome on top of it. If you look inside, you'll see like a brick almost with an imprint. And this is where Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was making the foundation, building up the Kaaba, he stood on this stone. And Allah subhanahu caused it to raise up so he could build up. No ladders needed. Subhanallah. So this imprint on the stone is there until today. And again, you know, there's no specific dua to say there. There's no specific, you know, actions of worship, you know, rubbing the thing itself, like some people, you know, wrongly do, sadly, because they think there's something of barakah. Yeah? The glass was made somewhere in Jeddah factories. No barakah there. Here, it's just a display case. It's one of the signposts of something to do. Yes. What is that something to do there? That if it's possible to do so, that the person, after finishing the tawaf around the Kaaba, they go there and they recite وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى, which means, and adopt the station of Ibrahim as a place of prayer. And in the hadith of Rasulullah in Sahih Muslim we find that and this station was between him and the house. My father said, and I do not know whether he had mentioned it as from Allah's apostle, that I recited in 2 rak'ah, say he is one. So here, this is from the narrator of the hadith, that there's 2 rak'ah prayer to be prayed near to Maqam Ibrahim. And in the first rak'ah, to recite Surah Al-Kafirun, Qul Ya Al-Kafirun. Second, Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. So these 2 rak'ah to be prayed at Maqam Ibrahim. However, sometimes that's impossible. When you've got the Hajj and the full, you know, full amount of pilgrims there, that area you can't even swing a cat, as they say. Not that we want to swing cats there. It's like you were standing there and the whole people, you'll just move with the people like that. You can't even, you know, you're not walking, you're just getting carried along. So how are you going to pray there? Impossible sometimes. So in that case, scholars explain, anywhere in the masjid, you find a place, if you can, pray nearby, that's the sunnah. But if you don't find in Maqam Ibrahim, anywhere in the vicinity, anywhere in the masjid, pray 2 rak'ah. Khalas. And then if you want to, you can go back to the Hajj Aswad to make istilam, to kiss the black stone. If it's not possible, we move on to the next part, and that is now going to the Mas'a, which is near the Mount Safa. When we reach the Mount of Safa, we recite the following verse: Inna as-Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah. That verily as-Safa and Marwa are among the shrines of Allah. And then we go to the foot of the mount. Some people insist they have to climb up Mount Safa. In fact, now there are 2 levels for doing the sa'i between Safa and Marwa. So a person can be at the bottom level, which is just the stones of the Mount of Safa, or on the second level, which goes also to the mount, and you can just stand on the stones. You don't have to climb so high. So long as you stand towards the mount, even at the base where the stones are nearby, you can't reach it, it's nearby to the base. When we reach there then, we recite Inna as-Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah. Verily Safa and Marwa are among the shrines of Allah. And then we say Abda'u bima bada'a Allahu bih. That is, that we start with what Allah started with. And then it's from the sunnah to say Allahu Akbar 3 times. Jazakallah khair. This point here the brother mentioned is that do not drink Zamzam after you've made the tawaf. You can do, but at the moment the well of Zamzam is now completely closed off. I don't think you can't even see it anymore. Can you see it now? No. The whole of the haram you'll see, mashallah. You'll have drums of Zamzam everywhere. Yeah. So it is sunnah. If a person didn't drink it, inshallah will not make your Hajj naqis, it will not be defective. It's from the sunnah. But Jazakallah khair for reminding us that a person can drink Zamzam any time while they're making Hajj or Umrah. If you are fasting, then that's a different issue. Even then, you know, that people say, the scholars have said that to take benefit, because Zamzam, when you drink it, it is the shifa for whatever you want. Whatever intention you're drinking for, you'll get the shifa for that. So we now reach the sa'i. We're on Mount Safa. We've said the dua of starting, or when you ascend the mount, and there is another supplication which is recommended to say. And the sunnah is to face the Kaaba, so you can see it. If you can't, no problem, but face the direction of the Kaaba, and you can raise your hands. There's nothing wrong in that. And to say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Then to say La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahu al-mulku wa lahu al-hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. La ilaha illallah wahdahu wa anjaza wa'dah wa nasara 'abdah wa hazama al-ahzab wahdah. There's none worthy of worship being worshipped except for Allah alone, who has no partner. He has the sovereignty, and to him belongs the praise, and he has power over all things. There is none worthy of being worshipped except Allah alone. He fulfilled his promise, he helped his servant, and he defeated the clans of the disbelievers alone. You may say any other dua that you wish as well at that point. So now we've finished, we started at Safa, and now we make our way, descend down and head towards the other direction, which is towards Marwa. As we walk along, again there are no specific dua, supplications to say at this point. Any good supplications are good, and if they're from the Sunnah, even better. Or to recite the Quran whilst doing sa'i is one of the best actions that a person may do. So the person then heads towards Marwa. As you walk along Marwa, or the path to, where the sa'i is to be done, you will see a set of green markers on the side walls, bright green fluorescent lights. When a person reaches this, they start to run. Okay, they start to run towards the next set of green lights, which is maybe about 100, 200 meters away, Allahu A'lam. And this is for men only. The women don't run in that. When you reach the second markers, then you go back to normal walking. In the area where you're doing sa'i, it is not obligatory that you have to uncover your shoulder. This is specific for tawaf. However, and one thing again I think I overlooked, just to mention something, that when a person reads the 2 rak'ah at Maqam Ibrahim, they should actually cover the shoulder. Some people, they make the mistake of having the shoulder uncovered. Rather, from the conditions of prayers, that you should cover it up. Okay. So now we're reaching to Marwa. When we reach Marwa, we ascend Marwa till we reach the stony part. And exactly as we did at Safa, we face the Kaaba, raise the hands, and to make the same supplications that we did at Safa. So when we go from Safa to Marwa, this is the first circuit, or the first length. Here, 7 lengths are also to be done. Now here, you have to remember that it's easy to lose track of where you are or how many you've done even. The thing to remember, Marwa is always going to be the odd number. If you've reached Marwa, you're on an odd number. If you reach Safa, you've done an even number. 1, 2. So you'll do 7. When you finish the 7 lengths, you've now completed sa'i. Here's a question. If a person was doing either tawaf or sa'i and they forgot, it's possible. A person forgets. What should we do? The answer here, the scholars explained, is that you go for the lower number that you're sure about. Don't go upon shak, doubt. Go upon what you're most firm sure about. Or go for the lower number you think is most likely, and you take it from that. Some people carry these counters in their hand just to help them. It's not Islamic or anything like that. Some people might say, oh, it's not allowed. Allah, I mean, it's not no big deal. But if you forget what circuit you're on of the tawaf or the length in the sa'i, go for the lowest number and just take it from there. Tayyib. Sa'i is now finished. Then, at that time, the person, if it's a man, what should they do? Is that they should either shave the whole hair or to trim it all over. Either is allowed. For the women what they do, they take hair just enough length that goes around the fingertip to trim that part off. Once that has been done, then that person will be out of the time for, so they'll be free of the restrictions for ihram. So this is the completion of the Umrah. Wallahu a'lam. And with that, I think I've come to the end of the time as well. Now it depends on whether you're going to go to Hajj, Ifrad or Qiran, and that I think Sheikh's going to take over for that, inshallah.